Stop recording button. Double tap.
Hello from my kitchen. Yes, I know, yarn lovers. We're gonna cook today. Today's video is not about yarn, but I did wear one of my hand knits just for the yarn lovers so you could come in. And cause hey, when people show off their hand knits, especially garments, we're like, but can you really wear it? Well, I'm wearing today a brown halter top knit in the Knit Picks We Crochet cotton. Now this halter top is basically the first garment, right, that I ever made. It was like I made a scarf, I made a hat kind of thing, made some leg warmers, and I was like, ooh, girl's gotta make herself some clothes, right? So now I didn't design this. This is a pattern out of Vogue knitting. It's pretty simple. It's knits and pearls. It's worked in the round. But as I mentioned in the previous video when I showed it on cotton, well, it's cotton, and as we know, eventually, even though we love cotton for summer garments, right? Eventually, it stretches out. Yeah, it's a little more low cut than I like. It's getting, I've put it in the dryer. I've tried to shrink it. It has not happening anymore. So I might remake this top. It's got a single, just one piece around the neck. I'm thinking about, should I do two ties? And then even if it shrinks up, right, I can tie it up even tighter. It's still wearable now. I mean, it is, but at some point it might not be. So that's all the yarn talk today. But if you're new to my channel, hi. My name's May. I do love yarn. I love to knit and crochet. Those are my hobbies. I also happen to be visually impaired. Now, I'm not totally blind, but I am too blind to drive. So, most of my life, like I lived 10 years in Portland, I lived near bus stops. I lived near places where I could walk to stores and walk to buses. When I got my job at the university, I lived just a few blocks from a grocery store. I could do the walk down the hill, do my grocery shopping. Okay, well, where I live now, I live very, very remotely. I'm miles from even a bus stop. So I rarely get into a store anymore where I can buy like fresh meat and salmon and chicken and salad and eggs. And that means that I really have to rely on what I can buy on the Amazon. Like Amazon Fresh doesn't come where I live. No grocery stores deliver where I live. And that means I have to get really, really creative about how I get my food. And so today, I know that there are 16 million people in the world who are considered legally blind. That's 16 million people who cannot drive themselves to the store. And there are, of course, millions and millions of more people in the world who have disabilities that keep them from driving. And as people get older, let's face it, disabilities, life, things happen where you sometimes have to give up driving. And one of the big fears for people is, do they have to give up their independence and, go to a home, right? The two fears when you can't drive anymore are either you're going to have to sell the house and move to a home, or God forbid, move in with your children. Your children are already like, oh Lord, right? So people think that. But the reality is I'm not living with my parents. I'm 47. I'm a grown up. They don't want that. I don't want that, okay? But I don't drive. And I'm certainly not going to move into a home, right, in quotes. And I'm not saying I live in a home, but you know what I'm talking about when I say a home, right? I'm not talking about a house, but I'm talking about a facility where others take care of you. We don't want that. Most of us, we want our independence. We want our autonomy. We want to do things for ourselves. So when I can't get to a store, I don't want anybody to think, oh, I can't drive anymore. Those are my options. No, I live on a lot of prepper products. There's a lot of preppers in the world who buy products, they don't use them, they keep them, they store them for 10 years. We're all waiting for the apocalypse, right? We're waiting for systems to be down, grids to be down. One of the companies I buy from is the Augason farms. They do a ton of prepper products. People buy this stuff all the time. It's called dried egg powder. It's not dehydrated eggs. It's truly dried egg powder. And so I don't use it for everything, but I don't have fresh eggs in the house very often. So I like to cook certain things with it. And one of the things that I like to cook with it, because I really like to get protein, I think protein is really important to get into our diets. And I'm limited, right? When I can't go to the store, one of the proteins I can get is canned salmon. Now, when I lived in Portland, I could walk to a Trader Joe's. I could walk to a Whole Foods. And at the Whole Foods, I loved the seafood counter. I'd get these beautiful fillets of wild sockeye salmon. And I loved it. But nobody's delivering wild sockeye salmon out here. Now, there's lots of canned salmon out there. I personally love wild salmon. I don't like farm-raised salmon. I don't like my salmon. That stuff is pumped full of antibiotics. It's raised in these crowded pens. It's very, very unhealthy. So I love wild salmon. Yes, you will pay more. But I did find StarKist at a reasonable price. Finally came out with some wild pink salmon in the can. I get these on Amazon. These are 5-ounce cans. I get a 12-pack. Right now the 12-pack is on sale for just over $21. It's not always that cheap. It's about 20% off right now. So 12 cans at 5 ounces, that's roughly 60 ounces. That's actually a pretty good price, right? Because 64 ounces will be 4 pounds. So that's less than $6 a pound or so. Around that $6 a pound price, right? That's a pretty good deal. Plus, when you get a big fillet of salmon, you're paying for the skin and the bones and the cartilage, the stuff that you don't want to eat, right? So with these little cans, I already opened them because you don't need to hear my can opener. So this is what you get in the can. There's no bone, there's no cartilage, there's no skin. It actually tastes good right out of the can. It's big chunks of nothing but real meat and protein. I think this is probably the best canned salmon I've ever found, honestly. And you can get it on Amazon. So today, I thought I'd show you how we make salmon patties. Can you make salmon patties with these egg products, right? So that's what we are gonna do today. And on top of that, I'm visually impaired. So I thought I'd show you how we make them with our little panini press, okay? And why is that important? Because when you're visually impaired and you gotta flip your salmon patties, it's a little bit of a pain, right? And then they fall apart and you can't find them. You gotta locate them with your spatula, get them flipped over, get them back on the pan. Can I do it? Of course I can do it. I've been cooking salmon patties for years, but it is a pain. So as somebody who can't see, when I put a salmon patty on, I use the flat side. We got the griddle side up on this thing, or the grill side up, these little flat panels on the panini press. I can put my salmon patty down there, and then we're gonna close the lid, and we're gonna cook it on both sides at once. Okay, so that's one of the tips and tricks that I use as a person who's visually impaired. That I don't have to be feeling around with my spatula looking for the salmon patties. Yes, I have to do that once when I get the salmon patties out of there, but that's it, that's all. So we're gonna start with our Augason Farms dry whole egg powder. And I'm gonna get roughly 1/3. To make the equivalent of 2 eggs with this powder is 1/3 of a cup of the powder plus 1/3 of a cup of warm water. So you've seen this on here plenty of times before. It's my glass measuring cup. I'm gonna go ahead and use my 1/3 cup scoop and put it in there. And then we're gonna use the same scoop and get the 1/3 cup of warm water from the faucet. Then we're gonna mix it together. Now I know if you're excited, you're like, why don't you just measure with your glass measuring cup to the 1/3 cup, put the water in, and then put the powder in there. Well, I can feel the lines, but I really can't see what's going on in my cup anymore and the numbers. So if you're visually impaired and you're needing to mix up something in a glass measurer, that's one of the things that I do. Is I go ahead and use just a plastic measuring cup, get the amount, and then put it in the glass measurer. And that way I know I got it right. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over to my sink. We're gonna get 1/3 cup of warm water. We're gonna put it into the cup. This is the Augason Farms egg powder. Now something I'm gonna tell you about. This product has a strong odor to it. When you first open the can, it's definitely got a different smell to it. It's different. And then when you add the water and you mix it up, it's really got a different smell that you kind of have to get used to. So I'm gonna be the first to tell you, I have never used this product in like just scrambled eggs. I love to eat like scrambled egg wraps, you know, for breakfast with some onion and salsa and all that on a tortilla. But you know what? I just don't know how this product's gonna work out like that. I can't bring myself to do it. I don't know if the odor's gonna go away enough or not. I don't know. But I certainly do use these in baking for cookies. And we're going to talk about how you can use it in salmon patties. So the Augason Farm egg powder, you can also buy that on Amazon. That's where I get it. So today we're talking about foods that preppers can have in their house and that non-driver persons with disabilities, when you can't get to the store often, there's still plenty of healthy and nutritious food options with products that, so if I go to the store once every 3 months, 4 months, it's okay. I'm still gonna eat some protein. Now, I'm pretty sure that this egg powder doesn't look very appetizing. I say to myself, I'm like, ooh, I think this is a better to be blind moment. I don't actually want to see what this egg stuff looks like when it's mixed up. I'm just telling you, I just get the feeling it's gloppy, it's thick. I'm guessing it's kind of yellow because it's egg. It sounds kind of icky to me. So, better to be blind, folks. Better to be blind. So I'm going to use 3 cans, so that's going to be 15 ounces of my wild salmon. And I've got roughly 1/3 cup of mayonnaise. Not quite, you can play around with a little bit. If you want a little more mayo, you can do more mayo. If you don't, it's totally okay. You do you. I'm all about that on this channel. So I'm going to take my fork out of there. And we're just going to scrape the salmon out of the can into the bowl. There's one. Heating up my griddle. Now, if you are uncomfortable as a blind person or a visually impaired person with heating up your griddle before you put your food on there, because you can burn your fingers. I've done it before. You can wait and not heat up your griddle until after you put your salmon patties on there, right? If you can't see at all, you can feel the heat coming off of this thing without a doubt. But if you can't see at all, and the edges do get hot, you're gonna feel the edge of the plate, it gets hot. So you wanna keep your hands down low on this thing. And you feel as it gets closer to the grill surface, it's hot. So if you are totally blind and you're trying to learn how to cook, I would definitely say that there are state commissions for the blind, state department resources for the blind, where they will certainly teach you how to cook safely. Okay, so always use caution when you're cooking in the kitchen, especially for everybody, but especially if you're going blind. But can you do it? Of course. And as I said, if you don't want to turn yours on until after you got your salmon patties on there, so you're not trying to get them on a hot grill, I'm pretty used to it. I was born visually impaired. I was born legally blind. I've lost more eyesight, but I'm used to doing the world by feel, by smell, okay? So this is what 3 cans of 15 ounces of salmon looks like in the bowl. As I said, there's absolutely no bone, there's no cartilage, there's no skin. To me, that's a bonus. It's so icky and it's gross and it's a pain when I've worked with other brands of canned salmon and you gotta pick the little bones out and the cartilage and the skin, and it's like, ugh. I don't want to eat that. I don't want that in my salmon patty, and it's tedious. And when you're blind, we're making a patty, so we're going to use our hands, right? And there's nothing wrong with cooking with your hands as long as you have good hygiene, right? So just make sure you wash your hands with hot water and soap before you start the process. As long as your hands are clean, it's okay. So this is what our salmon looks like. Now we're going to go ahead and put our mayo in there, my 1/3 cup of mayo roughly, into the bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse. I was just touching the salmon for y'all so you can see it. I wanted you to see what that salmon looked like. I wanted you to see why I think it's probably the best canned salmon out there. But now I got salmon on my fingers. So, I'm gonna rinse them off for a minute. And you season your salmon patties however you like. If you want no seasoning, do no seasoning. If you want Cajun seasoning, do Cajun seasoning. If you want like dill, you know, and like a more traditional, you know, dill seasoning, you do dill seasoning. I like to put mine, I'm half Chinese, okay? But of course everybody can use teriyaki sauce and Asian seasoning. I like to put 1 tablespoon of teriyaki sauce in mine. Now I do a variety of different types of salmon patties, but I have teriyaki sauce in the house. Now, as a visually impaired person, I just put my finger right over the top of that tablespoon, and then I can feel when the teriyaki sauce gets to the top of the spoon. So if you're visually impaired, that's one thing you can do to feel what's going on. Now I have this Asian seasoning blend. I have brailed it, if you can see. We got some braille going on here. Yeah, and you can, it says Asian, okay. And now, sorry, I'm trying not to turn my back to you all too much. I got my 1 teaspoon, and I'm going to go ahead and put...
Creative Grandma. Winner has been picked for the 36 days of Premier Home Cotton. Were you the winner?
1 teaspoon of my Asian, and you don't have to be exact with this. And if you want to use separate seasonings, of course you can. The Asian seasoning is a mixture of your salt, your pepper, your garlic, your ginger, some of those typical Asian seasonings. So if you wanted to do like 1/4 of a teaspoon of each of those separately, of course you can. But for me, it's just easier to have it all mixed together in one container, right? That's just easier for me. And you can see the braille on there. It says Simply Asian in braille, and I did that with my braille label maker. I have a YouTube short on my channel about my braille label maker. Okay, so what we have in our bowl is the salmon, the mayo, the teriyaki sauce, and the Asian seasoning. We're gonna go ahead and put our egg product in there, right? We're gonna put this egg product, the Augason Farms dried egg, into the bowl. And then of course, if you've made salmon patties at all, you know you need like a cracker or a breadcrumb or something. So I also get these on Amazon. This is the 365, you know, that's the Amazon brand. They bought out Whole Foods. This is the panko. I like the panko. We're gonna go ahead and put roughly 1/2 of a cup in there. It's not an exact science, right? It's not. So we got roughly 1/2 a cup of salmon the panko breadcrumbs that we're gonna put into our salmon patty. If you don't want to use that, if you want to use like an Italian seasoned one, of course you can do that. You can crumble up some, some crackers or some breadcrumbs. You can make your own homemade breadcrumbs if you don't like to use the panko. You do you. We're all about that here. Whether we're stitching, right? If you listen to my knitting stuff, I'm all about you doing what you like, the methods that you like, whatever suits you. I'm the same way in the kitchen, okay? You season your salmon patties however you like. If you don't like teriyaki sauce, don't put hot sauce in yours. Put something else in there. So I'm going to start out with a fork, but of course it's salmon patties, so we got to get our hands in there anyways, right? We do. So we're going to go ahead and get our hands in the bowl. You want to see it before this is what we're looking at. This is what it's gonna look like if you're sighted, if you got some vision at all. I want this channel to be for everybody, but I do try to make sure that I can help people who are having visual impairments or other disabilities in their life that are making it difficult for them to drive, people who are having to adapt in life, right? When you have a disability, it becomes all about being adaptable. Disabilities can be really frightening for people. Having to change how they do things in life can be really, really frightening for people. And so I just want to be able to help people with that and say, hey, you can still live independently. You absolutely can. Now I divide mine, once I get it into a mixture where it's well combined, where my breadcrumbs are well combined, my mayo, my egg, I divide mine into 3 chunks, right? 3 balls. And then I divide each of these 3 balls into 3 balls and make those into patties. So I get 9 salmon patties per batch. That feeds me for 3 days. Okay, I'll eat 3 salmon patties today, 3 tomorrow, 3 the next day. I have it with some rice. You have it with whatever side you want. Okay, so I'm gonna take my ball here and I'm gonna divide it into thirds. Now we got a nice flatty patty, right? They don't have to be perfectly round. I mean, if you got OCD, I got a little OCD, but I'm not that OCD. This is a hot griddle. You can absolutely feel the heat. I'm gonna put it down carefully, and as I said, if you can't see well enough and you're super, concerned about being around the heat, okay, yeah, and I do want to be careful, right? I do. I don't want to burn my fingers horribly. Then wait, put the patties on the griddle first, okay? And then turn the heat on, and that way you're dealing with a cold griddle. Now, in the interest of time to make this video, I wanted to have my griddle on ahead of time so that you didn't have to sit here and watch while we waited for the food to cook, because that takes a lot longer. I'm going to rinse the salmon patties off of my hands, right? And then we're going to close the top of the griddle. That's what I was talking about. When you use your panini press for this, there ain't no flipping. You get your patties on there, and then you wait till they're done, and you only have to use the spatula once to locate your salmon patties. I'm getting my spatula. I should have had that out ahead of time so that I didn't have to abandon y'all there. But that's pretty much what we're doing today. This is a simple meal. It's a nutritious meal. It's high in protein, and I made this with everything that you can get on the internet. So the mayonnaise, depending on how you do it, right? Once you open your mayo, you might have to refrigerate it. You can also do mayonnaise packets. If you're somebody who doesn't always have reliable electricity and refrigeration, then you can always do the little packets. Of course, they're more expensive, right? But if you can't rely on things being safe in your environment, maybe your power goes out often because you live in a real remote place, that kind of a thing, use the mayonnaise packets, and you don't have to worry about mayo in your fridge. So other than that, though, everything else except for the mayo are shelf-stable products, right? Your salmon cans, shelf-stable. The seasoning, the egg powder, shelf-stable. The only thing that needs refrigerated is mayo, but you can use mayonnaise packets. Those can stay on the shelf for quite a while as long as they're sealed, and they'll be just fine. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to go ahead and get some plastic wrap real quick to cover up my salmon over there. I don't want it to dry out. I'm not going to use the rest of this salmon. Here's what we got left in the bowl. This is what we're looking at. I really hope I got this angled right so people can see. So we are going to go ahead and put some plastic wrap on the bowl so that our salmon doesn't dry out. I'm gonna go ahead and get one of my hand crochet cloths. You know it. If you know it, I knit and crochet. I do my own dish rags, right? Because, woo, you can see it out here. When you're blind or visually impaired, sometimes cooking can be a little bit messy. No, I'm not saying every blind person is as messy as I am in the kitchen. Okay, I'm not trying to portray that like we're all a bunch of slobs or something like that. But for me, I am somebody who spills a lot, okay? I just am. Even though I've lived my whole life this way, measuring things in the kitchen is still something that getting things perfect and precise is still something that I struggle with. So let me go ahead and see if I can use my spatula, right, to slide it onto the grill to find my patties and locate them. And that way I'm not using my fingers because the grill's hot. So I know where it's at. To me, I'm touching the surface of it. I'm gonna let those cook just a little bit more. They're definitely getting brown though, which is nice. And they're getting brown on both sides. Now they will be, depending on how quickly you close that lid. Like I washed my hands first. They might be a little more brown on the bottom first, but I think that they're gonna be okay. They didn't feel burned to me in any way. I'm just gonna give this a quick wipe down. We'll take care of more of it later. You don't need to see all of that. So, yeah. Now I got some rice in the microwave. I also use the augason farms with this. I do all kinds of different things for rice. My dad, right, I said I'm Chinese. My dad grew up on a rice patty. That's what his mom did. She worked the rice patties. We ate a lot of rice growing up. Now he buys the big 50-pound bags of rice. Sometimes I have one of those in the house. But these are the augason farms teriyaki rice and vegetables. They are one of their other products. It's rice in a can. It's like basically doing a fried rice, and then it comes with a seasoning, a big bag of seasoning. Put your seasoning in. You can cook it on the stove top, or you can cook it in the microwave. I happen to cook mine in the microwave. Easy peasy. So I'm gonna get my augason farms teriyaki rice and vegetables. It's been in the microwave for a while. I wanted it cooked ahead of time. Just because I didn't want the microwave going when we were talking, right? We're talking about how to cook some salmon patties. You didn't need to listen to my microwave going. I cooked this for about
Facebook,
7.5 minutes.
Here we go.
It's nice and fluffy once you stir it up in the bowl. Yeah, that works. Okay, let's check on the salmon patties again. Okay, yep, they feel very done to me. Now, I don't know how much of this you can see on the camera from the angle that I have it at. So this is what it looks like on the top. We're gonna flip it over. Yep, it's definitely brown on the bottom. And that way I just use my spatula. I locate my patties once, get them in the bowl, and there's no flipping and chasing them around on the griddle. I love that. So, I'm gonna turn this off, and I think that's the end of the cooking for today. I really hope that this helps anybody who doesn't have the ability to drive, somebody who lives remotely, to help think of some healthy meals with products that you can buy on Amazon, and how to use some of these freeze-dried products in your everyday life. Yes, you can buy them for the apocalypse, of course, but you can also use them in life. So today, I'm gonna go and eat my salmon patties and rice, and I'll be back to stitching here real soon. And yes, there will be more yarn soon. So anyways, thanks for listening. Bye-bye for now.
Pause.